Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Passionate Professional series. My name is Tunde Kukoyi, and I'm the host of tonight's episode. The Passionate Professional series is an offshoot of the Passion and Purpose of, which is a channel that sets out to share useful knowledge so you can maximize, as the name says, your passions and your purpose. The aim is so that you do not just enjoy success, but also fulfillment in your lives. This is the 22nd episode, and just like the number 22 has, it's got two people, we've got two special people tonight on tonight's episode. So we get double the value on tonight's episode. It's the first time we're having two guests on our episode today. Now, very recently, I've been thinking about why I do this series, the Passionate Professional series, and I saw an interview from Steve Jobs, and he was actually talking about why he set up Apple, and what he said actually struck me, and I think it probably is the same reason why I do this same series. Steve Jobs said that the core value or their core belief at Apple is that people with passion can actually change the world for the better. And that's the core belief that I hold as well, that as long as we are passionate about what we're doing, we can actually change our communities, we can change our world for the better. And that's why I do this, bringing us closer to people that are actually living out their passions and by so doing, making the world a better place. It's to bring us closer to such people and help us see that if they can do it, we can also do it as well. Like I said, our guests for tonight are already in the episode, already in the studio, and this episode is going to be double the value because we have two outstanding people in the studio today. Just before I bring them up, I'm just going to share our opening thought as I always do. And the opening thought for today is this: what does a world-class life mean to you? What does a world-class life mean to you? Now, hang on a second. Most times when I ask people this question, what comes to their mind is, oh, flying first class, living in the penthouse, drinking expensive champagne all day long. And to be honest, that's a good life. I recently attended an event in London. I had the opportunity to stay in a five-star hotel, and I'll tell you, it was a beautiful experience. But do I want to do that every day? Maybe not, because that's not what a world-class life means to me. What a world-class life means to you might be something totally different. What the best way I can put it is a world-class life is a life that you want to look back on and be proud that you lived it. That's what you call a world-class life. Now, for someone that might pertain to their health, to them it might mean being fit and active even till the last days of their lives. To another person, it might be a sense of adventure, the ability to be able to travel around the world, learn new languages, explore the sights, the taste, and the sounds of the world. Another person might have an entirely different perspective. For that person, it might be leaving a legacy behind for their children and their children's children. For another person, it might be family. For another person, it might be having a lot of money or so much money that they don't have to worry about money. And for another person, it might be a combination of this. Now, I'm not trying to define what a world class life should be for you. All I'm saying is, whatever your world class life is, make sure that you sit down and articulate, clearly define and articulate what a world class life is to you because people do not live a world class life by accident. They do not fall into a world class life by accident. You might even want to make a vision board for it somewhere in your room or your wall, and it's something for you that you can always work towards. So the challenge for us today, as we go into today's episode, as we go into a new month starting in a few days, is define what a world class life is to you and make sure you start creating that world class life. Don't wait until you're 80 before you say, oh, now it's time for me to live my world class life because we're only here for a short time. We don't know how long we're going to be here for. Right, so I'm going to be reading out the bio of our guests who are already in the studio. I always remember that it's an interactive episode. Be sure to ask questions because it's not just a one-way thing. I love it when people ask questions and people say, let us know when they get those aha moments from what our guests are saying. So be sure to make it as interactive as possible. We're looking out for your comments. We're looking to hear from you as well because you make it really worth it. Now to read the bio of our guests. So our guests for today, as you might already know from the banners, our guests today are Ken and Mary Okoroafor. So Ken and Mary Okoroafor are authors of the newly published Hachette book, Financial Joy, a 10-week plan to help you banish debt, grow your money, and unlock financial freedom. They are the founders of The Humble Penny and Financial Joy Academy, which are platforms with the core mission of helping at least, listen to this, at least 10,000 people achieve financial independence by the year 2030. That's just 7 years from now. They run a popular YouTube channel at The Humble Penny, and they are super passionate about empowering a generation of people to live their financial lives by design. They became financially independent age 34, including being mortgage free in just 7 years, with Ken having started his journey as a first generation immigrant to the UK age 14, and Mary was born to a hardworking immigrant family in London. Ken and Mary have two children aged 10 and 9 and love outdoor activities and traveling to new cultural adventures. They've helped over 5 billion people to improve their relationship with money and recently got named Entrepreneur Senior Leader of the Year by prestigious Black British Business Awards. Their work has been featured across the BBC, ITV, Financial Times, British Vogue, The Sunday Times, Bloomberg, Business Insider, Vice, iNews, Metro, Channel 5, The Guardian, Telegraph, including working with the UK Prime Minister at number 10 Downing Street. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, with a resounding round of applause, I'd like you to welcome to the stage today Ken and Mary Okoroafor.
Hey.
Hello. Thank you for the lovely intro.
Yeah, exactly. Really
Oh,
excited to be here.
I'm absolutely a fan of you guys because I follow you guys. I watch what you do, and I learn a lot from you. So being able to actually interview you, it's like on another level for me. So thank you so much for honoring my invitation, especially on Sunday where I know you have a class coming up really soon as well, and just managed to fit this into your schedule. So I truly appreciate this.
Thank you.
Thank
No,
you
we
for having
appreciate
us.
you asking us as well.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much. Right. So, for the purpose of our guests, I know you already, but a lot of people might be meeting you for the first time. Can you just introduce yourselves to us? Tell us a bit more about yourselves, Ken and Mary.
Yeah, so Ken and Mary, we are founders of the Humble Penny and Financial Joy Academy. And as you mentioned, we're also newly authors with our book, Financial Joy, coming out in March, which we're super excited about. We started the Humble Penny in 2017 as a passion project. And let's just say that since then, it has built from a small passion project to something more impactful. And yeah, do you want to talk more about it?
Yeah, and I just wanted to add as well, we're a husband and wife team because
Can't forget that.
some people have actually messaged us and went, oh, some people said, oh, we're brother and sister.
We don't look
And
alike.
and that made me laugh a lot. So just want to mention that we're a husband and wife team, and we do this full time. You know, this is our calling actually. And we used to have corporate jobs. I used to work as a chief financial officer. My career is mostly in the investment business in finance. I trained as a chartered accountant, and Mary has a mixture of a creative background as well as working history in IT amongst other creative outlets in media companies and so on. So we've brought all that together to essentially begin something that will change the game for a lot of households, a lot of individuals, a lot of families, to change their financial destinies, not just in this generation, but the next generation.
Yes.
So that's what our work is about, and we enjoy it. You know, it's a lot of fun. It's quite a daring move, really, doing what we do, because you know we started it as a passion project, not as a traditional business, but having taken it to become something that helps so many people whilst also providing a career for us is really like we're very thankful for that opportunity. So yeah.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. And I picked up a couple of things from what you said. And the first one is it started off as a passion project, and I think that's something that a lot of us should reflect on. I don't know about you, but you probably will be able to tell us more. But when you started this, I'm not sure if you knew that it was going to become something this big, but you gave it that. I mean, you gave it that first push, you gave it that trial, because a lot of us have a lot of things that we're passionate about and we're thinking, I don't think it really matters that. But
Yeah,
the
yeah,
fact
yeah.
that you started, I also read about your blog that you started as a 99p blog and it's become what it is today. So it's just like it's like motivation for all of us that you know what, if you're passionate about something, go out there and do it. It might start really small, it might seem really insignificant, but there is no limit to how far you can go. And I that's something that I would take home with me, and I want everyone that is listening to this to take home with them as well. The second thing you said is that it's become more of a calling for you now. And that's interesting because I've heard a lot of people say things about career and calling, and they say, well, your career is what you're paid for, but your calling is what you are made for. And I kind of agree. Like everything that your journey so far, you talked about your background in accountancy, and then Mary's background in design and everything. And it's all kind of fused together to become what it is today, the Humble Penny and Financial Joy Academy. So yeah, if we take that step in faith, we'll probably keep moving towards our calling. And it's something about purpose. I tell people, like, you might not see the entire picture at once, but if you just keep taking that step, you would fall
Yes.
into your purpose at some point. Wow, thank you so much. There's something that I read on your blog, but it'd be interesting for our viewers to also hear about that. And I know both of you are passionate about financial independence, and it kind of probably is. You mentioned that it's a couple project, your husband and wife, but it'll be interesting for people to find out how you actually met and how you started this journey.
Okay, so we met in 2009 at an event. It was a property investing seminar. We went to learn how to get into property. And for those, if you can think back to the timeline, 2009 was just after global financial crisis. And at that period of time, everybody, I guess most people were still very uncertain about the future and didn't really know where things might be going. And should I bother getting on a property ladder, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I saw an ad that was advertising to come and learn about just how to, because we'd read the book, I'd read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, a couple of years before that, and I didn't know that
I'd also read the
that
book.
Mary had also read the book, and so they were running an event in London, in Victoria, in London. So I went to that event, and anyway, cut long story short, at that event, typical me, when I go to an event, I like to just like get stuck in. So I went all the way to the front of it was a big room. There's probably about 200 people in that room, probably even more than that, if you can remember.
Yeah.
I was right at the front row, and it was an event over 3 days. But whilst I was at the event, during one of the breaks, I was kind of just scoping out the room, kind of just looking back to see what's out there, and Mary, I spotted Mary. And I thought, wow, okay, I need to kind of make my way to the back of the room and chat to this young lady.
I wasn't at the very back,
she was somewhere, you're somewhere like maybe towards the back, close to the back, but not all the way at the back. But Mary had come with her brother, who was meant to come with his wife. So anyway, long story short, I got into a team with them, like one of these like activities you do. And I remember one thing I remember clearly was that we had to do a commitment wall. It's like a wall where we had to write like our commitments for the future and like what we really wanted to get out of our lives. And yeah, I got to know Mary and her brother all through those 3 days. I even bought them lunch, which is actually, which actually went down well.
Tried to win us over with a Pret sandwich.
Yeah. I think I bought dessert as well. I can't remember.
I don't recall, but it was a sweet gesture.
Yeah, so this is where our kind of our journey began, just as friends, who just met at an event, and found out she was single and just got chatting, and then it would carry on really. That we noticed from the event that we had a lot in common. We had quite similar mindsets and similar goals and stuff like that, and that became almost the foundation that we had. And we didn't know we'd become a couple down the line, but like the seeds were there for a future, a really powerful, really exciting future ahead. But we were just starting out. So yeah, that's how it all started.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. And it's really interesting. I mean, and I'm also grateful that what started back in 2009 with just you looking for ways to become even more financially free, financially independent is something that has not just evolved into a successful and blissful union, but it's something that's also actually benefiting the lives of others. So we never really know where our paths will take us. I'm sure when you saw that advert, you'd probably be like, let's just see that. I'll
Yeah,
try
let's
this
just
out.
go.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
let's just go. And
Let's just go and see where it leads me, you know.
exactly, and see what else come out of it. I mean, I've attended one of such events as well, and I think that's something that we also need to be doing. We need to actually step out of our
Mm,
usual comfortable spaces, like, oh, this is who I am, this is what I do, but you never know where that next step will take you. So leads to my next question. You probably have talked about this before. What are your values? Probably as a couple, as a family. What are some of your non-negotiables? What are the things that you live by day to day?
So definitely for us is integrity, honesty, transparency. So not just within our marriage at home, but also with everything we put out on all our social platforms, whether it's our YouTube videos, our blog posts, our posts on Instagram, LinkedIn. We definitely, those values are high on the list for us. And
yeah, I'd say mutual respect. Respect's a very important thing. I think in any relationship, as well as, you know, even for respect between a parent and a child, you know. So another value is family life. We take family life very, very seriously, and you know, and then tied to that is our faith as well. So faith is an important value for us. In fact, it's actually a key foundational pillar in our kind of marriage and journey as a family. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you again once again for sharing that with us. I mean, faith key on your list. You talked about mutual respect, and I would agree that mutual respect is very important because both of you are very popular, and you have to give yourselves. You have your talents, but you give yourselves like, oh, I respect you that you're doing this, and I respect you because to work. I mean, even with people that are not like you're not couples or something, it's quite difficult. But as a couple, you see yourself every day. I mean, mutual respect has to be top on it, and I love how you also tied it with integrity, honesty, transparency, because in the world of social media, it's very easy to put out the glitz and glamour, whatever will get you the fastest number of subscribers or
Yes.
followers or to get people to listen to
Or payment.
sticking with that.
Even payment, you know. So
Exactly, payment as well.
Yeah. It's easy to
But
always put
sticking with those values.
yeah, it's easy to put money ahead of like your actual values, you know. And always, you know, in the world of money and personal finance, talk about this idea of getting rich quick. You know, a lot of people want to get rich quick. That's not always the best thing to try to do, you know. The same goes for like work and careers and stuff. You know, it's not always the highest bidder. It's not always that's the path that you should go for. You need to really ask yourself, does this really align with my values, and do I want to be associated with this opportunity or this company? So yeah, those things are very important. And yeah, we reflect on them all the time.
Yeah. We've said no to opportunities like sponsorships if their values don't really align with us, regardless of how much is involved. And it's important for us to be able to be very careful with, you know, just what we put out there to our audience. Yeah.
100%, I totally agree. And I'm sure you probably say this, that it's not at that point when you are asked, you're trying to decide what your value is. It's because you've decided on what your values are from time. It helps you to make that decision.
Exactly.
It's hard to make those decisions if you don't know what your values are beforehand.
Which actually, funny enough, speaks to self-awareness, because like one of the things I think that's really led us on our journey so far is just the importance of being really self-aware, knowing what's important to you, knowing where you will not, things you would say no to and things you'd say yes to. Because I think self-awareness is lacking a lot in our society today, because a lot of people are just led by other people. A lot of people are just led by what they see online or on social media. It's very easy to be led by other people. I think with self-awareness, particularly when it comes to money, you're able to say no to most things, because without that, like, all your money disappears. You know, like if you don't have that ability to say no, you know, like things just disappear out of your life. And actually tied to self-awareness is this idea of self-control. They're all very related, you know, self-awareness, self-control. which then connects to commitment, which then connects to respect. They're all like connected to each other, you know, but without almost being aware of those things and knowing who you are and what you bring to the world, and you know where your core areas of strength are, areas of development, you just wouldn't know. You just operate by, you know, on autopilot, and
you just say yes to everything.
You just say yes to everything that comes your way,
good.
which is just a recipe for disaster, to be honest. So yeah,
I agree, 100%. I totally agree with that. Next question I'm going to ask you is something that probably is becoming more relevant today. Maybe it wasn't the same 10 years ago, but I went to, I think, was it the Black British Business Week, or Black Business Week, sorry. And yeah, there was this roundtable discussion, and everyone was like, I work in this, but I'm trying to pivot into this. I work in this, but I'm trying to, and it seems like everyone just wants to make that switch. I just want to ask, during your own time, I mean, how did you make that switch from your corporate jobs to being entrepreneurs? What was it like? Was it a one-day thing, or was it a gradual process?
This is such a good question.
It's very good.
Did you want to speak to it first?
Yeah, sure. So we actually started the Humble Penny when you were working full time. I had actually already made a switch from the corporate world into the business world. That was running a children's nursery, a family-run business. But so whilst I was running the nursery, Ken was in his full-time job as a CFO. We started the Humble Penny, like we said, as a passion project, and it was on. We did it on the side. It was literally a side hustle that grew, and it just became so difficult to balance the two that when I made the jump to work on Humble Penny full time, it felt very right for me. Likewise with Ken, during lockdown 2020, when everyone was panicking, there was a lot of uncertainty, economic uncertainty. Ken also left his corporate job to run the Humble Penny full time, but it was a no-brainer for us, because we had been sowing the seeds, it had been growing from strength to strength, and it just made sense for us financially, but also in terms of time. You know, we wanted that work-life balance. We wanted to be able to work on the Humble Penny, but also have time for our marriage and our children. And we just couldn't like juggle all those balls. Something had to give, which was our jobs. But also, we'd paid off our mortgage, so we didn't have that financial responsibility, kind of all that burden of, you know, the monthly payments. And we also were living below our means, and so we had a buffer, we had an emergency fund. So those things in terms of finances were in place for us to be able to make that jump.
Yeah, I was just going to add to what Mary said, is it didn't happen overnight. It's a very important thing to talk about, because we started in 2017 and I left my corporate job in 2020. Yeah. So it took 3 years. And the reason it took that long is partly because, number one, when we started, we gave ourselves 3 years to focus on one idea, to try and make that one thing successful or fail spectacularly, or anything in between. So we give ourselves a long period of time. A lot of people, I think, don't really give themselves time for things to work out. They're too impatient and they're not committed. I think commitment is a very important part of whether it's a relationship or whether it's a business venture or, you know, whatever. You need to be really committed to it for it to actually work out. So that's the first thing, is we give ourselves a time period. The second is, you know, although Mary like hinted at it in a way, we'd been on our financial independence journey ourselves, you know, since we met. So we were in a really good place financially on our own like private journey as a couple, to the point where it was more the corporate job was serving as a carrot more than anything else, rather than like, this is the first time we were gonna see for real what life was like living without that monthly paycheck, you know, because the monthly paycheck was nice. You know, you get your pay every month, you know, you book a nice holiday, you pay your bills, you know, all those things. But for the first time, we're going to have you know, live fully on either our own income that we've been building and our own resources, and or rely on this platform or business that we were creating to some extent. So I think it was more of an emotional trade-off or a psychological trade-off of, I'm not going to be getting a monthly regular income anymore, and am I okay with that? So I think what most people don't really have in place is there needs to be a buffer. You know, if you look closely at entrepreneurs who have built successful businesses, a lot of them are relying on bank of mum and dad, or they're relying on the fact that their parents have have put seed money into what they're doing, or whatever. There's always a cushion or some kind of safety net that people don't see, because you can't see it. You don't know. So our safety net is that we've been working towards financial independence since 2009. So we've been preparing for this event, but then we didn't know that event had arrived when COVID arrived. So COVID, in a weird way, was a gift in a way, and I hope that's clear from our own perspective, because it forced us to really decide, what do we want to do at this stage of our careers? Do we want to carry on running two things, or do we just want to have a go and focus on maybe take a leap of faith and really do the Humble Penny and Financial Joy Academy at this stage of our lives? And that's what we chose to do. So yeah.
Well, I think everyone listening, you can hear that as well, because that's the very key problem that a lot of people have. They have this thing they're passionate about, but they just want to jump right into it. They're not prepared for it. But like you said, you give yourself time, and that's one thing people don't talk about as well. Just like when people talk about, you probably have heard this before, like most of the successful people did not go to university, or they drop out of university, but they just take that, and then they make that seem like you don't have to go to university.
You don't have to go to uni.
It's true, yeah, but I mean, they don't take the full picture into perspective. And just like you're saying, you are prepared for it. You are actually worked to become financially free, because a lot of people have passions, but if there's nothing to fund that passion, then passion crashes and burns. So that's something that you need to be aware of, and we need to all take into consideration.
If I could just chip in as well and say something, I think that safety net is so important, because our work is not a traditional business where I'm selling bottles or I'm selling phones, where it's like, hey, here's my bottle, click here to buy. And then 95 to 99% of our work is free. You can access it anywhere, you can go and watch it, listen, so it's not a normal thing. So what that means is you don't really have a traditional business driven by it's not a revenue driven thing. Do you see what I'm saying? It's driven out of a purpose of trying to change our community, change people's financial destinies. So that means that a lot of our work is actually self-funded by us. Do you see what I'm saying? It's funded based on the stewardship we put into our own finances over many years. To the point where even if what we're doing isn't really generating an income for a season, it's fine, because we put in the all the necessary foundations for us to be sustainable and still operate, but knowing that the work we're doing is having the impact it's having in the world. So I'm saying that to say that it's very important not to almost see the need for a cushion as a small point. It's actually a massive point. People need that, because it gives you that opportunity to actually give yourself the best chance of success, and not give up too early. Do you see what I'm saying? So yeah, I just wanted to give that, that real life perspective, because I think it will help to encourage people who are maybe thinking to make certain transitions and that kind of stuff in their lives.
Well said, and I couldn't agree more. I want you to talk about, at this point, about some of your biggest or proudest achievements. This is not to brag, but it's actually to show people that if you work hard at what you do, you can actually do something this big as well. Could you share some of them with us?
So do you want to, I'll let Mary wants to share first, I think. See what you say.
So firstly, I'd say becoming a parent. That's something we'll both say, actually. And one thing I can remember clearly, just because it was just a crazy time, was us launching our academy, Financial Joy Academy, and this was in the height of the pandemic. During COVID, when there was so much uncertainty, and we launched to 200 founding members, and they stayed with us through the course because they were really looking for somebody for guidance and encouragement and leadership. So for us, we had to be strong. We had to just, show that strength to our community, and it built this amazing community that we still have today, and growing by God's grace. So yeah. Yeah. How about yourself?
Yeah, so I'd say quite a few things for me. I'd say one of the almost the proudest moments for me was uh, paying off our mortgage early in 7 years. Now, this is such an important thing because one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that there's a lot of value you get out of life when you live your life from a place of security, right? So if you've got some foundation where you've got stability and security in a home, for example, you actually build more wealth from that position. And in addition to that, like, our children are growing up in an area, in a home where I don't have to worry about them. I don't have to worry about, like, are they going to get into like gangs or whatever? Like, they're just, we've created that stability and security as a family, which for me is one of the most proudest things, because then, life is good, family is good, and that kind of thing. The second thing is becoming an author, right?
Yes.
I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would ever become an author, and doing it with my wife as well. Like, we're co-authors, of our book, Financial Joy, which is available now, actually, now, available for pre-order on Amazon, as well as all the other retailers. You can go and order it now. Just search Financial Joy on Amazon. I'm so proud of this book because it's literally the best work we've ever put out there. And it was so hard writing this book because, there's so much going on. We have so much to share, but it's how do you condense everything into a book that gives people a very clear transformation that's practical. So the subheading of the book is there to help you to banish debt, grow your money, and unlock financial freedom in 10 weeks. So it's a 10-week program, step by step. Every week ends with some lessons and some tasks. And then the book also includes 12 interviews from single people, couples with kids, people who are Black, white, Asian, people at different stages of the money journey, people who are at the very beginning living paycheck to paycheck, people in the middle, and people who've become financially free, entrepreneurs, professionals, 12 of them, like, very, very well curated. In addition to the whole book, obviously shared from our lived experience as a couple, an immigrant couple, who have children. Because a lot of people who share this kind of stuff have either not even achieved that goal, or they don't have any children, right? So we, as a Black couple in London, starting with a lot of the challenges a lot of people face right now and today, overcoming those challenges, then sharing what's actually helped us practically to help people actually get there as well. That, for me, has become one of our biggest achievements by far. And honestly, I can't tell you how proud I am that we actually did it. So yeah. Oh, and then the final one is winning that entrepreneur award, the Black British Business Awards.
The tongue twister, isn't it?
Entrepreneur Senior Leader of the Year. That, honestly,
still amazed.
The BBBA, wow, like, honestly. And remember as well, for me, I think one of the biggest things is, we didn't start off to try to win entrepreneur awards. Do you see what I'm saying? We started up because, we had corporate jobs, but then we wanted to do something that would change the lives of other people. So to be recognized, one, by the Black community, secondly, by a very prestigious award, the BBBA, and thirdly, for, just our progress from a business perspective was just like,
it was such an honor, like such
huge
an
honor. So yeah, those are some among many others that,
Wow. Okay. And that's a picture of both of you on the website.
Yes.
BBDA website.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you.
Truly remarkable. I'm still going to talk about your book in a bit, but again, I caught up with one that you probably have not said, and I want you to just share how that experience felt. And that was when you were invited to number 10 Downing Street.
Yes.
Of course.
So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, no, that was actually, again, one of those very surreal things, because, like, when we started what we were doing, again, you never really know where life would take you, like, I always think, Mary and I have this concept of taking faith walks, every single day you should get out there, and you don't have to see, you have this thing you said, don't see the complete staircase. What was it?
Oh yeah, just take the first step. Don't worry
Yeah.
about the full staircase, because that could overwhelm you. Whereas if you take small steps, it's all about the marginal gains that you make.
Mm.
Whereas if you think about the big staircase, you might not even want to, take that, pursue that venture or that idea because it's so overwhelming. So yeah, small steps is what
Yeah,
they say.
and one thing I would say, a lot of people would not know this, is one reason they invited us was because they said there are many channels and many platforms that are bigger than you guys, but we chose you guys because of the integrity that comes across in your content. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
They told us this right in there in number 10. They said, you don't create clickbait stuff. You are straight to the point. You tell it how it is, and you're fair. Yeah, you're fair. You're balanced in your approach, and you're fair. And obviously the fact that we're also a young Black couple, and doing this together, because it's unusual. Not a lot of people see a Black couple, in this area of personal finances, and the fact that we built a community of people that were very engaged. Our community love what we do, and we love our community, and they just loved all of that, and they thought they invited a number of other creators, a maximum of 5, across the whole of the UK, and we were one of the 5 or 6 creators that were chosen to visit number 10 and kind of work with them on a project they were working on. So it was a huge honor. And I remember actually telling Mary about it. She thought I was joking. I said, "Oh, we just had an email from 10 Downing Street." She was like, "Nah, there's no way."
Absolutely.
I mean, if that happened to me, I'll probably check. I'm like, this is probably a scam, but obviously, wow, it was real.
And tied to that, we then had a congratulation letter from the London mayor. This only came last week, Friday. Again,
Wow.
tied to it. So honestly, I tell you what, it's so important to maintain good relationships. If you say things to people, do what you say you're going to do. If you are putting out any kind of content into the world, make sure you're demonstrating your values. You might think those things don't mean a lot, but you don't know who's watching you. There are people watching. It's a bit like this podcast. There are people always listening. They might not say anything just yet, but one day they will suddenly get in touch with you and they'll say, "Oh, I've been following you for some time, and I just wanted to tell you blah, blah, blah," or invite you to this place, or invite you to that thing. So I just wanted to put that out there to encourage anybody who's watching this now or who might watch it later. The values you carry, the way you carry yourself around the world is so important.
Wear your values on your chest.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, 100%. Always stay true. Always stay true to who you are. I mean, even when no one is watching, let your integrity always be your best friend. I totally agree. Before we move on to talk about financial joy, I just wanted you to also tell us about, perhaps yourself, Ken or Mary, anyone, just tell us about a difficult time you probably experienced and how you managed to go through it. Because everyone might think, oh, Ken and Mary, they've always had it smooth sailing all through their lives, probably born with a silver spoon. But tell us, I mean, have you ever had a difficult experience and how, or a challenging period in your life, and how did you handle it?
Do you want to share first, or shall I?
Yeah, you go.
Do you know what? There's so many challenging moments in our lives, and I think it's important that we're always sharing what those are. I mean, I can think of many. I mean, one is just moving to the UK, for example, and beginning life as a first generation immigrant and not having everything together, not having your papers, and not having all the things you need. That for me was a very, very difficult phase of my life, and really defined a lot of who you see today. A lot of my desire to, together with Mary, to want to help people, because we know what it's like to come from not having anything at all, or living in that shame that you don't have everything figured out, but you don't also know a lot of people who can help you, and a lot of life feels very helpless, and you don't really know how to kind of navigate life and that kind of stuff. So that's one thing I always talk about, that because I know there are people out there right now who are in exactly those same places right this moment, who are looking for that ray of light, who are looking for someone who they can identify with and connect with. I just wanted to tell that person, whoever it is, that look, feel free to connect with us. We've been on the journey. We can kind of offer you our guidance for free in various ways if that's a struggle that you're having. But one more recent difficulty we had was actually writing our book, because we've never written a fully published book before. We've written ebooks and but this is not like putting out just anything into the world. Like, you need to put out your best work, because this, like you said at the beginning, no one knows how long they're going to live for. No one knows like how long they'll be in this world. So we wanted to create something that would be game changing generationally and live evergreen for a very long time. Yeah, even for our children and their children, right?
Yeah.
But writing that book was so difficult because we'd never done it before.
Yeah.
Where do you begin? In fact, one of the hardest things was, what would be the first sentence? How do you open the book? Like, how do you begin? What's the first line? This is where you start to realize this is the challenges people have when they're starting a business. They're like, what's the first thing I should do?
Yeah.
It's the same with writing a book. It's like, what's the first thing I would write? So that someone reads it and they don't put the book down because they're so bored, right? Because it's a money book. Is how do you begin that process? And your question was, how did we come to overcome that process? So one of the things was, do you want to speak to some of what we did from an interviews perspective?
Yeah, so we had about 5 to 7 different meetings with other authors separately to learn what works for them. So luckily we have, by nature of what we do, creator friends who have also done this journey already. And so there's no point in us racking our brains, like stressing how we're going to do this. We spoke to a lot of our friends who were newly authors. We set up Zoom calls with them, very practical, and we just asked them questions. We pricked their brains. And we just learned from it. We wrote it down, and we created a very clear book outline and milestones for each of the subsections of each of the chapters. That was very tricky.
Very tricky.
That took so long, probably about, I don't know, a month or so. But once we'd done that, it made the job so much easier of just actually filling out those chapters. We took blocks of time out to work on it specifically, because at first we were trying to do 1 hour a day,
2 hours,
2 hours a day in the morning. But then we realized that actually after the 2 hours, that's when we were just getting into it. So we realized quite quickly that no, we're going to have to just have a full day of intensive
days
writing.
Even. Sometimes I was in just like a hotel for like 3 nights. Boom. Some days I'd work for, like 16 hours a day, 18 hours a day, whilst communicating with Mary, making sure the children have got to bed, making sure like they're ready for school, making sure. And this is like week after week, month after month of the same intensity. It was nuts. Like, I tell you, it was extremely difficult. And the other thing as well, I think that helped us a lot overcome this challenge was communication. So speaking to Mary, making sure that we were both on the same page, and that like we both knew who was doing what, and and that things were not falling apart. Because remember, our audience was still expecting what they were expecting: YouTube videos, blog posts at the same frequency, and all our other projects and family members, as well as our marriage. So it's a lot of like very like intricate communication, making sure everyone, like our mental health was okay, making sure like our state of well-being was okay. It was actually tough. And then the final bit I'd say was then making the space in our diaries. So it's okay knowing what you're going to do. You then have to make the space in your diary. So I'd say for at least 9 months, probably 8 to 9 months, about 80% of our time, either mine or Mary's in between, was dedicated to the book, literally. So that meant saying no to so many things and literally just blocking the time out to just work on the book. So, it required, I have to say though, one thing I need to speak about, which, maybe I've never talked about, is it required going back to our very small beginnings. By that I mean, when we started a Humble Penny, we were blogging. We didn't know if anyone was reading the blogs, we were just doing it. But a habit of blogging became very useful when it came to writing a book. Because we built that culture of writing every week, that muscle of writing every week you're writing stuff. So nothing anyone is doing is ever wasted. No matter what you're doing right now, well, no matter your work experience, no matter your lived experience, nothing's ever wasted. It's all preparation for that next level that you know God's preparing you for, in our personal opinion.
Wow. Well, do you know the reason I'm saying wow is because you were talking about the process of writing a book, and many people might not understand well because perhaps they haven't written books before, and especially talking about not a self-published book, a book that's published by a major publisher. But as you were talking, I just found kind of like relationships to life, about any challenge you're facing in life, and how what you did is actually practicable and can apply to what you're going through in life. So, for example, when you talked about meeting with other authors, sometimes we're stuck in situations and we don't know the way out, and we keep asking, how do I go about this? And someone said sometimes you don't need to ask how, you need to ask who, and you look
Yes.
for other people that have been there before.
Yeah.
That's something that we need to latch onto if we're going through challenges. You talked about communication as well. Sometimes we keep to ourselves, we don't express ourselves well. By clear lines of communication, we can actually make things easier for ourselves. You talked about following an outline. You talked about taking out time, like blocking out days, like 3 days in the hotel. Sometimes we want easy solutions, but you had to go away from your home, away from comfort, not in the hotel, just relaxing. 18 hours like of mentally challenging work, and sometimes we need to do that if we need to come out of the situations that we are in. And it's just like I found a lot of parallels between that and life, and I was like, wow. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing that. And I would like to say at this point that I have bought the book and I'm waiting for it. Yeah, yeah.
Come on,
I know it's coming out sometimes in March. I'm wondering, why is it so long? Why is it so long? But I still have to wait. I still have to wait. And the other thing I'm going to say at this point is that books like this can actually change our lives. Sometimes we underestimate the importance of books. You talked about Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad as well. And also read another book on finance called I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. I don't know if you know. Yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to this as well, because we just feel like sometimes people just write off things just because they want, no, not because they want to make money. They actually want to impact lives. And a book is a way you actually communicate with the author, or you learn from their experience. There's no point in you making the mistakes that they have made already. Just learn from them and then accelerate your growth, accelerate your progress. And I'm definitely looking forward to the book. If you haven't got the book already, I think you should just type Financial Joy on Amazon and you'll see right away, or wherever you get books from.
Yes.
Just because we're nearly reaching the end of our time, I just want to ask a couple of questions that possibly would relate to a lot of people. A lot of people can actually connect with. Um, on your website, you did say something on the Humble Penny website that we are millennials, we are migrants, we are minority, and we're helping other people who are in the same shoes, because we're kind of like in a disadvantaged position, if I can put it that way. And the question is, why is it that a lot of millennials, I mean, a lot of people, millennials or people that come from other countries, for example, I came from Nigeria as well. And when I came here, I mean, even if you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, a lot of things that might not make sense because the system doesn't really work along those lines. But when you come into a system like this, then it becomes really clear, like, oh, this is what we're talking about: assets, liability, taxes, income, all of that. So why is it that a lot of millennials, migrants, or minority are in a disadvantaged position when it relates to money?
Yeah, so I think, well, those groups are all different people, but also the same people in different ways, right? So for millennials, it's clear, it's just, we're starting behind the baby boomers and the people that came before. I'm sure many people wish they could go back to the year 2000 or 2001, where they could buy property, and stuff like that. So, and historically, a lot of the decisions that have been made have really favored the people who own assets, and therefore created a lot of asset inflation over time. So a lot of us are kind of starting out in a world where, or becoming adults in a world where, like, we've been outpriced in so many ways, and we just don't feel like, we can have the same quality of life that our parents had. Look at cost of childcare; it's absolutely ridiculous. Look at the cost of, living; it's ridiculous. Look at the general cost of living. Look at the cost of property; it's absolutely insane. Look at the cost of anything, really.
Yeah.
In that sense, a lot of millennials just feel like, wow, like, we can't really, we're struggling to make it. You know, it's harder, but it's not impossible. That's the thing. That's the key thing. I think for immigrants, it's that whole thing of starting again, like a reset, beginning from scratch, but beginning with a lot of challenges. I think of my parents coming here, Mary's parents, and being told that your qualifications are not worth very much. You know, my dad trained as a vet doctor. My mum read political science. She has a master's from the University of Ibadan. And you come to the UK and they tell you, sorry, all those things you've done are actually worthless now. You have to go back and start as a technician or start at the very beginning, start doing cleaning jobs and doing all kinds of stuff. So it's those things where, you know, we're disadvantaged from the very beginning. And because you're starting from scratch, you don't have the same, you're not on a level playing field. You know, you don't have you have residency challenges. A lot of your money is spent paying lawyers, paying for legal fees, paying for all kinds of stuff. So you have that inability to build wealth. Then there's black tax. You're going to speak to that.
Yeah, so obviously you probably are aware of it, and other ethnic minorities as well, where we come to London, we come to the West, and there's this expectation that we should now continue to provide for our relatives back home. And it's something that we want to do because we're privileged to be able to be in a country where there are opportunities, although hard, to make money. And so, yeah, there's an expectation to be sending money back home, whether it's a salary, whether it's for children's school fees, nephews, nieces, aunties, uncles, many siblings that we have back home. So that is a real struggle where we're trying to build wealth, but also we're supporting family back home.
Then there's historical racism. You know, you can't get away from that. That's created many gaps. You've got ethnicity wealth gaps. You look at research, you know, a black African in the UK is worth around 10% of a white British household in the UK. And a black Caribbean is worth around 27% of a white British household. Then there's, you know, there are gaps from a gender perspective. There's so many of these things that hold us back to the point where even if you are, you know, someone someone who's, say, black in the UK, for example, even if you have read, you're well read, you know, you've got your degree, you've got master's level, you might even have a PhD, there's still a gap compared to other people from other ethnicities. You know, so and these are all data led. This isn't like just made up, you know, like this is not just how I feel. This is go and read the facts from the Office for National Statistics as well as other data sources out there. So it's a very challenging almost landscape for a lot of people, you know, of our heritage, of our background, of our journey, which is why we felt our book was absolutely necessary. Do you understand? When the opportunity came to write that book, we were like, we are doing it. In fact, when the opportunity came to write that book, it coincided with us losing our brother-in-law. He was only 39 years old. So we were dealing with bereavement, we were dealing with so many other challenges behind the scenes. But we needed to write this book. Yeah, because people need to see people like us that they can relate to from different perspectives. Some people connect to us because we're a black couple. Some people connect to us because we of our faith as a Christian couple. Some people connect to us because of our professional background. Some people connect to us because of our values. Some people connect to us for various other reasons, not just because of parents, not just black people, but white people, Asians, people from different walks of life. But this book connects, and some people connect us who are immigrants. But this book cuts across all those various areas and brings something very practical for people that they can do. I mean, how much is a book? I think it's like 15 quid or something. Most people spend that on a takeaway or whatever. But we wanted this book to be like lights to people's feet. You get the book and this would change your financial destiny forever. That's why we wrote the book. For us, we felt it was an absolute must, that it was not optional for people to have the possibility of financial freedom and to design their own life of financial joy. We wanted it to become their destiny. They could get there. They could actually create it, you know, but they need to know how, you know, not just by guesswork or using Chat GPT or whatever. They need to hear from people on the journey. Do you understand? Who are coming from a lived experience, who have been and overcome many challenges. Like, you don't even want to hear the half of the challenges we've overcome on our journey. There's so much, but we share a lot of this in the book because we want people to know. There's so many things we share in the book that we've never even shared before because we want people to know, you know, that like it's possible for you. You know, it's possible. Even though you might be living paycheck to paycheck today, you might be in like crazy debt today. You might be in the dark where you're like, I don't have my papers. I don't know my way out. You might be like, my career path seems so uncertain. I don't know where I'm going to go for the future. Or you might be like, I don't even know I'm going to pay the bill tomorrow. This book is empowering. It's compassionate. It's non-judgmental, but it's real. Like, it's very, very practical at the same time and inspiring. So we wanted to just bring all those elements together to say to people, here you go. This is what you need to take those steps. It will not happen overnight. I need to stress. However, if you're diligent, if you're persistent, and if you follow a plan, which is what the book is about, you will get there.
And it won't only change their financial lives, but it will also change their lives generationally. So I'm always struggling with that word. To help them create generational wealth, because especially within our community, there's definitely a gap there. And so, this would definitely 100% equip them to do things differently for their children and their children's children.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I absolutely cannot wait to get the book now. Now that you said, I wish there's a way you can just go and have a sneak peek already, but I will be patient. I'll wait too much. Right. I also love how you said that it's actually more difficult, but it's not impossible for people that feel that they are from a disadvantaged position to actually enjoy that financial joy, which is what the book talks about. There's a question I would like to ask, which I'm sure a lot of people are also burning to ask, and that is, what does it mean to be financially free? I mean, I think you probably know about the FIRE movement, and a lot of people they are saying, oh, does it mean that I don't have to work again? Does that mean I can now go to the beach and just be sipping pina colada, and that's it, I'm financially free? What does being financially free mean, actually?
So it means, so there's a money journey that everybody's on. That money journey begins from a place where you're maybe living paycheck to paycheck, and it carries on through a place of some financial stability, some financial flexibility, some financial security, financial independence, and financial freedom, and then abundance, right? It's a spectrum. And every single one of us who is earning and spending money is on one of those stages on the money journey. Financial freedom is essentially the stage of the money journey where the income coming from your assets is able to cover your living expenses, your living and lifestyle expenses over time. It's also mathematical. So if you wanted to work it out, using a calculator, take your annual expenses and divide it by 3.5%. Yeah, 0.035. It will give you a rough number of what your freedom number is. So if your net worth outside of your home, so stripping out your home, if your net worth hits that sort of number, then you are, from a almost maths perspective, financially free. But the thing I wanted to make clear is that financial freedom would differ for everybody. There was a poll that was done in the UK where they asked people, what does being financially free mean for you? One of the most common answers was, when I become mortgage free. Yeah. So people define it in different ways emotionally in their minds. For some people, it's when I become completely debt free. For some people, it's when I no longer have to worry about like my expenses. I'm able to spend freely and I don't have to worry about it. So there will be different things. But for us, is why we talk about this idea of financial joy. Financial joy is two things. There's the financial piece, there's a joy piece. The financial piece is about your financial journey towards financial freedom and you working towards that. But joy is about prioritizing your well-being, your fun, your purpose, all the pieces that we actually need. So people want this, but what they need is joy. Yeah. So financial joy is, how do you combine wealth and well-being? How do you bring them together such that you're not just running your life and working yourself into the ground, chasing the money, but you're pausing and saying, what's very important to me? What are my values? What's my purpose? How am I using this money wisely? How am I stewarding it? How am I having fun? Yeah, because a lot of us have forgotten how to have fun. We actually don't know. If I said to you, how are you having fun in your life? A lot of people have just forgotten.
Yeah.
They're just grinding. They're just working. And then they keep hearing on the news, that person's passed away. That person's passed away. That person's, but then you're like, we still carry on making the same mistakes. So it's, how do you live a wholesome life that brings together this core element of your journey towards financial freedom or financial independence, but whilst prioritizing your well-being, which is absolutely critical, more so than ever. Look at the stats on men and suicide rates for men. Men, oh my God. If you go and look at the stats, you will be shocked at what's happening around the world, in this UK, as well as other parts where, and this doesn't just apply to men, by the way. I'm just using men just because I heard a recent stat. So there's a lot that we're overlooking in our well-being. You know, a lot of us are mega stressed. We live in anxiety perpetually. There's just so many things that we are overlooking on our quest to try to build wealth. But what we're saying is you can actually have both. You know,
on your journey, independence, you can experience joy, and it's very important to find ways and meaningful ways for you to be able to experience that joy on your journey towards whatever financial freedom looks like for you. Yeah.
Wow. I'm sure I have a lot more comment. I have a lot more questions. A lot of people have a lot more questions to ask, but I think we need to stop at this point because we spent 1 hour. But it's been a thoroughly enjoyable session. I've learned so much. I've just been scribbling and writing notes. I mean, there's a lot. I probably will sit back and watch this over again. And I encourage everyone to watch this as well. If you want to find out more about Ken and Mary, I'm sure you probably know about them, but if you want to find out more about them, you can check out their website, www.thehumblepenny.com. You can also follow them on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Financial Joy Academy, The Humble Penny. You can find out more. And I will encourage you to do so because you actually would learn from them. It's not just adding to the numbers, it's actually going to benefit you as well. So on this note, I'd like to say a big thank you to Ken and Mary for coming out tonight. I know you have a lot of activities planned up, and obviously it's a Sunday evening, family time as well. But I want to say massive, and a big thank you for coming out. And a lot of people have said that they enjoyed the session as well. And I think that's why we do this. It's what we are really passionate about. So on this note, I would like to say thank you to everyone that's joined. This would probably be the last episode for the year because the last Sunday in December will be during the festive period, and everyone will be out with family enjoying and all of that. But as I always say, and I'm going to add something I've learned from Ken and Mary today, as I always say, to me again, keep living with passion and purpose, but make sure you have fun while you're doing so. Yes, everyone. Good to see you.
Yes.
Enjoy the rest of your week and the rest of the year. We'll see you next year. Thank you, Ken and Mary.
Thank you so much for having us.